Thanks, Austin. You said it was a quiet news week, and it was, but it might just be worth us touching very briefly on the OnePlus launch this week. They came forward with, was it 3 phones?
Yeah, for India, it was a 3 phone, the 9R, the 9 and the 9 Pro.
And a watch as well. I think for most of the rest of the world, it'll just be the 9 and the 9 Pro. I think the biggest improvements are really in the camera, where they have partnered with a photographic firm to try and get their cameras to a little bit more of a flagship place than they used to be. Fast charging has also increased on the 9 and the 9 Pro, so that you can go from 0 to 100 in 30 minutes, which is feels to me pretty cool, not necessarily essential. The fast charging on the 8, which I have, was already pretty quick. And the other thing about the 9 is that it now has wireless charging. Previously, only the Pro model in the 8 series, well, the T might have had it as well, but the standard 8 didn't have wireless charging. The standard 9 does. They get a slight processor upgrade from the 865 to the 888. Qualcomm Snapdragon, obviously, but storage and RAM remains the same. The other thing is that their pricing has also become a little bit more flagship. So where OnePlus obviously offered value, that's probably closing just a little bit. Like, it's still cheaper than an S21 or an iPhone 12, but that price differential to me is becoming less. I mean, I think from my perspective, I've got an 8. 256 gig storage, 12 gig RAM. I don't think I'm going to be getting the 9 or the 9 Pro just for wireless charging and slightly quicker fast charging. Those interested in photography, and I know that many blind people might want to think about it. But Austin, are you putting your hand in your pocket? You're a OnePlus man.
I'm the OnePlus man and I like OnePlus, but I don't know what happened this year. I watched their event and it looked like they didn't have much to offer. There were a lot of marketing terms thrown around, and half of the event was about cameras. And I do like OnePlus. I like them, but I'm going to give them credit where it is due. And the watch, wow, don't even get me started. For it's like 17,000 rupees in India, and everyone on YouTube, the other channels, tech channels, were expecting OnePlus to launch the watch either under 10,000 rupees, or if they launch it above 15,000 rupees, then they should bring Wear OS in the watch. But there is no Wear OS in the watch. That is the most worst part of the watch.
It's interesting. They're getting reasonable mainstream commentary on the phone. Like Tech Radar don't think the camera's the finished article, but they think that the improvements they've made kind of allows the 9 and the 9 Pro, the 9 Pro particularly, I think, to stand alongside the other flagship phones and at least compete. Warren, are you interested? You're a Pixel man through and through, aren't you? We're not going to get you over to OnePlus.
Well, so the problem that I have with the OnePlus um, is not necessarily that it's a bad phone at all. I think it's a very good phone. But I think that the reason why the watch is not running the Wear OS is just beyond me. I don't know. And I'm wondering if that is going to be accessible or not, for those of us who are blind, because it makes sense that, if you're going to put something out there, that you should make it accessible. And I hope that whatever OS they're powering this device with would be accessible to blind people. But we know that OnePlus, until of late, has not been very, especially when it comes to the dialer. Earlier on, it wasn't very accessible. So I'm not kind of thinking that this thing may be accessible. And if it is, then it's going to be a big surprise for all of us. But at 17,000 Indian currency, that's a little bit over the top. I don't know what that converts into US dollars, but that's a little bit expensive. Now, the OnePlus phone is a great phone, and I would love to have one if it only has an SD card. That's what's keeping me away from the OnePlus phone, because you are not a Google kind of phone. So you want to be a Google, want to be, come on, man. Give me that SD card like you have in the Nord.
I hate to break it to you folks, the SD card slot is dead on flagship phones. Like, Mac deprecated the floppy drive and everyone cried and insisted they would bring it back. They didn't. You aren't getting an SD card slot on a flagship phone, boys. Sorry.
So
It's,
I have
it's such a shame.
I have two comments more on the OnePlus. And first thing is, even the Nord does not have an SD card slot, and the second is, in China, what they are doing is horrible, absolutely horrible. They are removing hydrogen OS, what they were using. It's like same port of Oxygen OS, but without the Google services. So they're removing that and they're using Color OS. And if this Color OS comes to Google, the Nord is the last OnePlus device I'm going to have.
Yeah, that's another consideration. If you do want to put your hand in your pocket, and it doesn't sound like any of us do, especially, although like Warren said, that they're nice phones. You can get the OnePlus 9 and 9 Pro in the UK from the 31st of March. In the US, I think it's a little bit later. I think it's the 2nd of April.
Yeah, 2nd of April.
Yeah, I think 2nd. So, and the OnePlus 9 is going to set you back 869 USD basic, 729 pounds. I say basic because there's a 128 gig storage, 8 gig RAM option, and a 256 gig, 12 gig of RAM option. The OnePlus 9 Pro comes in at, I think it's $100 more and £100 more. So you can really see that flagship price gap closing. If you want flagship phones for mid-range pricing, looks like we're going to have to look somewhere else, whether that's Honor or Oppo, I don't know. But OnePlus prices are getting increasingly flagshipy, which I suppose is fair enough if their features are too. But the obvious value they offered, I think that margin's closing a little bit.
Or if you play my game, of course, you could always go back and get it yesterday's wine and get maybe like the 8 or something. Because I was seeing that those things were kind of actually having like a $3 cut today. So it will be a good time to pick up one of those if one is into OnePlus.
Yeah, sound advice. They will have come down now, and you'll probably start to see them being listed in secondhand sites too. So keep your eye out for that.